A tense encounter in the Jordan Valley, BBC crew confronts sanctioned Israeli settler. Under the harsh midday sun in the parched hills of the northern Jordan Valley, a cloud of dust rose from the rugged track. A white jeep was speeding toward a bay. Small group made up of BBC journalists, their translator, and Gil Alexander, a 72-year-old Israeli peace activist. What unfolded in the following moments offered a raw glimpse into the escalating tensions in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, where violence and ideology increasingly collide. As the jeep neared, Gil Alexander leaned forward and identified the driver with quiet certainty. "I think it's Moshe Sharvit," he said. The name carries weight. Moshe Sharvit is not just another settler in the West Bank. He is one of a handful of individuals sanctioned by both the UK and the European Union for his alleged role in a string of violent incidents against Palestinian families. Last year, a BBC Investigates report detailed an incident in which a Palestinian grandmother, Aisha Shtaya, claimed Sharvit pointed a gun at her head and threatened to kill her if she did not leave her home. She had lived there for 5 decades. "We've been here for 50 years. What have I ever done to him?" she asked, her voice trembling during the earlier interview. According to her, Sharvit's arrival in the area, marked by the creation of an unauthorized settler outpost, set off a campaign of harassment, sheep driven off, property damaged, and threats issued with impunity. These so-called outposts are deemed illegal under Israeli law, in addition to being widely condemned by international bodies as violations of the Fourth Geneva Convention, but enforcement is scarce and removal is rare. When Sharvit approached the BBC crew on the mountainside, his tone was confrontational. "Do you know he's a very dangerous guy?" he asked, gesturing toward Gil Alexander. Upon learning the group was from the BBC, he sneered, "Ah, the BBC, great lovers of Israel." He then labeled the journalists and Alexander as dangerous people, calling the BBC enemies of Israel. Sharvit quickly took out his phone and called the police, then began recording the team with his own camera, documenting them as they filmed him. This encounter was more than just a tense standoff. It underscored the deep divisions that have come to define the West Bank, a land where ideology, violence, and competing visions of Israel's future vie for dominance. Two men, two Israels, Gil Alexander and Moshe Sharvit, could not be more different. Both are Jewish Israelis. Both live with the legacy of war and loss, but their philosophies diverge completely. Sharvit is a devout religious nationalist who believes that the entire West Bank, referred to by settlers and Israeli officials as Judea and Samaria, was granted to the Jewish people by divine right. His beliefs are aligned with those of key figures in Israel's far-right coalition government, including Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, both settlers themselves. Smotrich has publicly advocated for the destruction of Gaza and the forced relocation of its residents, describing the prospect of a Palestinian-free region as a global interest. Ben-Gvir, who oversees police forces, has a criminal history involving incitement to racism and support for a terrorist group. Both ministers support policies that embolden settlers like Sharvit and shield them from significant legal consequences. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whose government depends heavily on far-right support to remain in power, has condemned international sanctions against settlers, calling them a form of anti-Semitism. Gil Alexander, by contrast, is a secular Zionist who believes in a peaceful, secure Israel within the 1967 borders, boundaries recognized by the United Nations before Israel seized the West Bank during the Six-Day War. A member of a grassroots movement called the Jordan Valley Activists, he works to protect Palestinian shepherds from violence and offers solidarity to communities facing displacement. "What they want to see happen," Alexander said of the settlers, "is an area completely free of Arabs. It's not just Moshe, it's the people above him who sent him here, from the top. The machinery of displacement backed by influential supporters." Sharvit's actions are not isolated, but part of a broader and systematic attempt to make life unbearable for Palestinians. David El-Hayani, head of the regional council that oversees settlements in the Jordan Valley, shares Sharvit's vision. In an interview, he bluntly stated, "This country needs to be free of Arabs. It's the only way." He dismissed reports of settler violence as propaganda from anarchists and the extreme left. El-Hayani's position reflects a growing trend within parts of Israeli society that advocates for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, a vision starkly opposed by international law and global human rights norms. Since the October 7, 2023 Hamas-led attack on Israel, which killed around 1,200 people and triggered the Gaza war, violence in the West Bank has intensified. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, reported nearly 1,800 settler attacks on Palestinians between January 2024 and March 2025. Israeli human rights group Yesh Din found that only 3% of cases against settlers result in convictions. Restraining orders and legal entanglements. Gil Alexander and Moshe Sharvit have crossed paths before, often with volatile consequences. In one incident on Palestinian farmland in January 2023, Sharvit alleged that Alexander tried to seize his gun. Alexander countered that he was acting in self-defense after Sharvit grabbed his walking stick and phone and shoved his friend. Now both men are under restraining orders. Sharvit cannot approach a nearby Palestinian family, while Alexander is barred from being within 2.5 kilometers of Sharvit's illegal farm. Following the BBC encounter, Sharvit accused Alexander of violating the order by leading the team too close to the restricted zone. Alexander later admitted he had crossed the boundary unintentionally by about half a kilometer. Despite the illegal status of Sharvit's outpost under Israeli law, it remains untouched. A dangerous standoff. After the filming confrontation, Sharvit blocked the BBC crew's exit by parking his Jeep across the road. Again, he called the police. Gil Alexander did the same, reaching out to both the authorities and his lawyer. The team began to fear that other settlers might arrive, and the situation could spiral into something worse. In a surprising moment, the tension eased when Sharvit agreed to be interviewed. The ensuing conversation, however, was not one of dialogue, but a stream of declarations. He dismissed accusations of violence and intimidation as lies, rooted in what he described as decades of anti-Israel propaganda. They don't understand that the harder they try, the lion will wake from his sleep, he warned. And within one day we'll end this story. 7 October was small. One day it'll be big. He categorically rejected the notion of coexistence. There is no such thing as peace with enemies who try to destroy you. His conviction runs deep, fueled by personal tragedy. His brother Harold was killed fighting in Gaza in December 2023. Yet, rather than tempering his views, the loss seems to have reinforced his commitment to a militant ideology. Sharvit ended the encounter by driving away, leaving the BBC crew physically unharmed, but deeply unsettled. The cost of conviction. Later that day, as the crew sat at a nearby cafe, an Israeli police officer arrived looking for Gil Alexander. He was taken for questioning and temporarily barred from entering the Jordan Valley for 2 weeks. He plans to file his own complaint against Sharvit. In his home in a kibbutz overlooking the valley, Gil Alexander reflected on the situation. His own community has not been immune to violence. Gunmen from Jenin attacked 2 years ago. A friend's son was recently killed while serving in the reserves to protect the kibbutz. Alexander is not a pacifist, but he draws a distinction between defending against terrorists and confronting settlers, who he believes undermine Israel's moral foundations. 2 of his own sons died by suicide, one while serving in the military and another shortly before. He was due to enlist. These personal tragedies pushed Alexander deeper into his activism. "If I don't find meaning in life, I'll go crazy," he said, "and the things I do are things I believe in. My father fought in the French underground during World War II and always said, 'Occupation is occupation.'" Just days after the encounter with the BBC, another video surfaced. A lone female peace activist filmed Moshe Sharvit pounding on her car window and rocking the vehicle aggressively. Her fear was palpable. Sharvit once again acted as if there were no consequences. Thank you for watching Yellow Pepper News, your source for trusted news and insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay informed.